Hey, what's up, everybody? Long time I ain't streamed to this, but man, we're gonna have a decent show today. I got a brother coming on, and the discussion today gonna be all about the obsession that African people, black people, brown people have with um, colonial religions and religions of their oppressors, religions of their enslavers. We're gonna have a good conversation today. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these. I've been having these conversations on other people's streams, but I thought I would start doing them on my own personal webpage. So I'm just holding on for the brother to come on. Just give it a second while I get him connected and all of that. All right. What's
Where's
up,
Ines?
David?
How you doing, bro?
I'm gonna
have to hold my phone.
That's fine.
How you doing?
I'm all right. We live, by the way.
Oh wow, okay. I had no idea. What's going on anyway?
I'm all right, brother. Hey, if you could share the link to your page if you want, or anywhere else.
Okay.
Anybody can listen in if they want, or if they want to jump in anytime. But this conversation is really going to be between me and you, right?
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, I'm not even going to try and figure that out because I'll probably break something. It's just that. It's just that obviously I'm on screen now, and in order to do anything, I'll have to go out and come back.
Oh, you're on your phone. You're on your phone. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I should have gone on my tablet actually.
Yeah, don't even worry about that, bro.
That would have been probably. It's nice to actually finally just meet you, and I know we tend to just chat online and stuff like that, but it's nice to actually do this, man. We should do this more often. I was actually hoping that Innocent could join us, but never mind.
I think he's busy or whatever. Today's his birthday or something, so he must be a busy guy. But definitely, if we do it today, we could do it whenever again with him on. It's fine,
hey, Listen, I love to talk. You have to shut me up at the best of times, anyway, man. I like to chat, especially when it comes to stuff, the kind of stuff that we talk about online. I am definitely up for that. Where are you from?
I'm from St. Kitts and Nevis. That's a country in the Caribbean.
Oh, I know where that is. I have a friend, Bernie Blanchard, who's actually from the same place. Wow, beautiful place. Apparently, I've never been.
What's stopping you?
Oh gosh, there's so many places that I want to go to, man. Just far too many.
If you touch down here, you got no problems, man. Just hit me.
I'll probably stay. I hate the cold, so I'm trying to find somewhere nice and warm to live.
It's weird, right? I posted a picture on my IG of sunrise because I was going for a walk, and somebody was like, "Oh, it must be nice." I'm like, "Must be nice." What are you talking? It's like, "Oh, it's snowing here." This is in Canada. I was like, "It's snowing." I have never seen snow in my life. Never.
Do you know what? For some bizarre reason, I thought you were in Canada.
Why?
I have no idea. I have no idea. For some bizarre reason, I actually thought you were in Canada. Oh, you love my T-shirt. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh.
A friend of mine, she got me that for Christmas.
Well, listen. So let me let you introduce yourself to the people who might listen live or might listen on the playback. Your name, where you're from, your background, because you seem to have a quite diverse set of interests. I mean, fossils, music.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. So just introduce yourself and who you are, brother.
Okay. Well, my name's Tavian Oladapo. I was born in England, but originally from Nigeria. Both my parents from Nigeria. I spent the first between the ages of 6 to 20. I was in Nigeria. I actually studied ancient history, and then left uni, went into the music industry, and was a professional singer for about 15 years, doing my own stuff, doing backing vocals for some well-known names and some not so well-known names. And then I left that, and through some fortuitous incidents, fell into microbiology. And I now work. I now work at the microbiology department at Imperial College in London.
That's quite a character act, right? I mean, if it's a comic book, you have quite an act of, it's a lot, right?
Yeah, I've been around. Yes, I've been around.
Well, the conversation here today is the obsession that African people, and when I say African people, I'm talking about continental African, diasporan African, just around the world, right?
Yes.
This obsession that we have with imported external religions. John Henry Clark said in a book, he said, an African will out Pope a Christian and out Mohammed the Arab, right?
Yeah.
It's African people take to these things and essentially take them over, or attempt to take them over and whatnot.
Finish what you're saying. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
The conversation today really is to go into maybe the history of it, what we're experiencing now, the effects of it, whether good or bad, the effects of it. What is the whole impetus behind Africans, that the things I've heard, and we've had a small conversation via Facebook Messenger a while back, and I said the things I've heard African people say about their own traditions are things that I have not heard a European say about Africa. I have never heard it.
Yeah, I know.
Give me your experiences with that.
I don't even know where to begin. Because it's an interesting question, and I think it boils down to the legacy of colonialism, both the European colonialism and the Arabic colonialism, because that is a form of colonialism when Islam was brought to Africa.
Yes.
And there was the thinking that in order to conquer a people and conquer them successfully, you have to destroy you have to destroy their identity. And I think that was done quite successfully in Africa, because you have to understand that the idea that let's go and bring the light of Christianity to the savages of dark Africa, that was done successfully. And the problem is that these kind of things were taught to us in the sense that Christianity did a very good job of demonizing our traditions. Now, myths are myths. Okay, let's put that to one side.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't realize that my notification was on. But what they did very, very well is the idea that Christianity came to save us from ourselves.
Right.
And that narrative really did trickle down through the ages. I mean, I heard it. So the things that you hear Africans say, I heard this when I was growing up. I was led to understand that Christianity was brought to save us, to save the heathens of Africa, the savages, and our indigenous beliefs were demonized, and Christianity was put on a pedestal, so to speak. And these have real ramifications when you think of our sense of identity, our heritage, what we think makes us unique. And it's only recently, I mean, I've been on this road now since the 1980s. It's only recently that I now have Africans that are questioning these things, that are saying, well, hold on a second, how can that possibly be right? And especially when you shine the light of scrutiny on Christianity, for example, and you realize it's not this model of perfection and morality that we've been led to believe. If anything, it's much worse than the things that we were forced to discard. So the way I look at it is that we were taught to almost demonize our own self, our own identity. We then taught our children these same kind of ways of thinking to say, oh no, you know, African indigenous beliefs they had names. They were called pagans. They were called evil, barbaric. Well, they were no more barbaric than Christianity, if you really, or Islam for that example. So from my point of view, it's a legacy of history that we are still suffering till this day. Ironically, if you were to actually take a step back and study African history, you'll realize that we were not actually the barbarians that we were painted to be.
Sure.
And what's even more tragic is when you now look at the history, or what we now understand about the history of our species, we now understand that actually Homo sapiens came out of Africa.
Yes.
So, and for me, that's even more profound than anything else that we've been through or anything that we've been taught. The irony about that is that Africans seem to be the most vocal critics or objectors to the idea that Homo sapiens came out of Africa. Now, how tragically ironic is that?
You know, let me back up a little bit. I want to know about you because you said you were raised as a young man in Nigeria.
Yes.
Right, and then you came back over to England, right?
Yes.
So, what is the experience that you had with religion in Nigeria, maybe within your own family, your own community, wherever?
Okay.
Right. You know, and how you experienced it then, and how you ended up breaking off of that path. You know, were you raised in a traditional household, or was it?
Well, the interesting thing is that my grandparents they would all talk about the Christian God and so on and so on. But there were instances where they would also relate to our traditional beliefs. So it was almost, because Christianity in Africa is quite interesting, because it's like they say they're Christian, but a lot of the time they'll pay homage to our traditional beliefs, which, you know, for me is fine. When I was young, when I was around 6, 7, we were Christians, but we were kind of like Christians in appearance only. It only got even more serious as I got older, and then we joined these Pentecostal churches that was quite well known in Nigeria at the time. And then I noticed that my parents were becoming even more Christian. So yes, we were told that the Christian God is the creator God. With things about, you know, our own indigenous beliefs were not really mentioned as much, but my grandparents did. So my own parents were more Christian than my grandparents, even though I could hear my grandparents talk about, like, we have say for example, my surname is Ogumaki. That Ogun, which is is the god of iron.
Yes.
So in our name we have it's a derivative of this local god where I come from.
Right.
And I've been back to where my grandparents and my parents come from during the festival of this particular god, and actually seen it. It's interesting. I mean, I was just like, okay, this is different. But as far as Christianity was concerned, we got more and more Christian as time went on. And so what I realized is that most people in closest to me were Christian, but at sometimes they would say, for example, if I'm really, really ill, and maybe we've tried modern medicine and they're not seeing much results, I've been taken back to where my grandparents come from to go and see like a native doctor, if you like, because their knowledge of medicinal plants are
unmatched.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, they know, they really do know what they're talking about. So mine was really interesting in the sense that we were Christian, but we were almost nominal Christians, if you like. But it got stronger as I got older, so that by the time I left home, both my parents were very, very Christian, more than I could ever remember. Now, in answer to your question, to what led me to kind of decide this is not for me, it was actually quite interesting. My dad bought me a book when I was 14 about a Spanish knight called El Cid.
Yes.
And fantastic book, fantastic stories. But what really struck a chord with me is that Christians and Muslims were killing each other, and yet they claimed to worship the same God. So
Right.
as a child, I was confused by this. I was like, okay, you're worshiping the same God, and yet why are you killing each other? I am sure that this is not what God wants. I am certain that this is not the message that the almighty, wonderful, benevolent creator of the cosmos has taught human beings. Human beings must have got it all wrong. So
Right.
I decided I was going to go and read the Bible, but not some passages, the entire thing. So for 9 months after school, whenever I could find time, I began to read the Bible. And at the end of the 9th month, and I'll never forget this, I was so confused because some of the stuff I read in the Bible, to me, to my 15-year-old mind, were just, I'm sorry, just insane. Because the bigotry, the misogyny, the intolerance, the barbarism, the lack of compassion. I just thought, wait a minute, how is this even divine?
Right.
So I was sure that I must have misunderstood it somewhere along the line. And I'm not even talking about all the supernatural stuff. I'm just talking about all the normal stuff, like, God punishing all humanity because two people listened to a snake. And I thought, well, a kind father wouldn't do such a thing,
Right.
especially if they didn't know what they were doing, because they couldn't possibly understand the ramifications of what they were about to do. And then I'm reading the story of the killing of the firstborn of Egypt, for example, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, the Egyptian king wants to let the Israelites go. It's actually God that's stopping him from letting them go.
Sure.
So why the hell are you killing the Egyptian firstborn when you're the one who is hardening his heart and stopping him from letting the people go? And so,
Right.
and there's many instances like this. So I was so confused at the end of it. I thought, okay, I must have missed something. So I went back and I read it again. And 2 years later, I was done. And I knew, to my mind then, this cannot possibly be true. And even if, sorry, go on.
What was well, after you finish, I want you to answer. What was the response? Like, were you like maybe outright that you were done with this thing, or did like your family members find out that you were not really Christian like that? And what was the response? So you can finish up, and if it leads into that, it leads into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, by the end of the second trip, I was actually angry. I was angry because I thought there is so much inhumanity in this doctrine that I just couldn't reconcile with the sense of compassion and the sense of humanity that was innate in me as a child.
Right.
And so, but I couldn't tell anybody. I was 15 years old. I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't say, oh, not in an African home. You don't put your hand up and say,
right.
The response will be a slap. And so I kept it to myself, and I decided that I was going to study some more, but I couldn't do it while I was in Nigeria. So a few of my cousins knew what I was thinking, and they listened to my reasoning, but most of them were younger than I was. So it was kind of like, oh, he started with, because I was always the one who questioned everything. Even when they would say, oh, somebody had juju, I would question it. Okay, where's the evidence? Oh, we're gonna go and play a football game. They'll say, oh, they have this thing where you can never score a goal against them. And I'll be like, okay, what was the score of their last game? Oh, they won 4-2. Well, somebody must have scored. Oh, you've started again. What is wrong with you? This was what I was like as a child. So I kept it to myself and made up my mind that I am going to study some more. So I didn't actually tell anyone till I left home. My parents didn't. They had no idea. I went to church with them every weekend. But the funny thing is, I then realized that these people jumping around saying something's landed on them, like the Holy Spirit or whatever, they're putting it on. And I was so sure they were putting it on. This is actually quite a funny story. The church we used to go to, they have this white gown. And if they think you're a prophet, they will give you a gown where it literally has no neck. It's like a square neck. And if they think you're a normal person, you'll get almost like a turtleneck type thing. So what happened is they gave all my siblings the prophet gown, and they gave me the normal one. I was like, well, what the hell are they trying to say? As a child, you want to belong, don't you?
Yes,
So
yes.
my cousins were all teasing me, look at you, you know, village boy, you know, that kind of thing, just teasing me. So I said to my cousin, I said, give me 6 months, I'm going to get one of those gowns. He was like, what do you mean you're going to get one of those gowns? I said, watch me. So for about 6 months, I simply watched what these so-called prophets were doing. Then I listened to what they were saying, and I noticed that their so-called messages were very ambiguous.
Yeah.
So you could take from it whatever you like. And yeah, there is a feeling that you get when they're playing that music, because it is beautiful music, and the euphoria that you get, and yeah, you can get it at a football game.
Sure.
And so essentially what I started doing is I just started copying what they were doing. And then I over a period of time, I worked up a courage to pretend to deliver these holy messages. You have to remember, I wasn't even 20. And I did it successfully, and they gave me this gown. And
you could have been, if you had continued, you could have been a very rich man right now. You could have been.
Yes. I could have been, but
Yeah.
my sense of right and wrong wouldn't let me.
Right.
I didn't want it that badly. I couldn't sell people a lie in order to enrich myself. It's not what I'm about. But more importantly, I actually got to a point where I despised the ideology so much that I couldn't possibly sell it, knowing that I didn't believe in it, and then enrich myself in the process, because I wouldn't like the kind of person that I would become. It's not the kind of person that I wanted to be.
You know, it's interesting you should say that you couldn't do a lot of things in Nigeria, right? So I have a lot of ebooks, soft copy,
Okay.
like history books, and all. I have a bunch of them, right?
Okay.
And it's amazing, like a lot of the people who give me the most trouble about African history, Arab slavery, Christian slavery, all of this, are people from like the, southern Nigerians are the Christian ones.
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Judeo
And the
Christian,
northern.
northern Nigerians,
Yes.
right? So the northern Nigerians, when it comes to Islam, they don't want to hear nothing about that.
Yeah,
At least
I know.
publicly. The problem is my inbox is filled with northern Nigerians asking,
Oh, really? Okay.
asking me, could you please send me these books?
Wow. Okay. That's interesting, because that's not my experience at all.
They on Facebook, on Twitter. I asked a couple of them, why don't you just ask? You could have asked me in the room. You could have just said, I can't put my information. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that.
Yeah.
And I found it so strange, because it's like, how is it that you have people who are so afraid to even ask for a book?
Because Islam, I like to put it like this: Christianity has gone through its teenage angst, right, and come out the other side, relatively speaking. Islam is still going through it's yet to even begin its teenage angst. So Islam is much more repressive than Christianity. Islam is at the point where Christianity was before the Inquisitions. Yeah. So the punishment for apostasy in Islam is death. So think about that. Wow. Very few Christians would fear for their lives if they leave the religion. Muslims generally do. And the Muslims in Nigeria, I tend to find, from my experience, are they're not moderate Muslims or whatever you might want that to mean. They are very, very extreme, quite resistant to scrutiny. So yeah, these people are asking for books. They dare not publicize the fact that they're questioning their ideology.
It's just interesting because it'll start off, of course, with an argument on Facebook in some thread or whatever. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Arabs didn't enslave people. Islam came peacefully. I'm like, it can't be, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll go on and go on and go on. And then I would say, look, if you want my books or whatever, I can. And oh, I don't want your books. I don't need this. You don't know what you're talking about. And then later on, you'll see the inbox filled with people.
Filled with people.
And they'll ask me, you know, if you could please send me these books.
That's a good sign.
It's just that it's just interesting how on the face of it, these people are so, you know, Islam is this and Islam is that. But on the back end, they're like, could you educate me about what you're talking about?
I don't blame them for wanting to be careful, to be honest with you. And I'm actually happy to hear that they're asking pertinent questions, because at the end of the day, I'm not actually interested in deconverting anybody.
Right.
All I'm actually saying is, listen, any ideology that tries to deter you from scrutinizing it has got something to hide.
Sure.
Because if you make a claim and you say this claim is absolutely true, then not only should you welcome scrutiny, you should embrace it. Yes. Because if I say 2 + 2 is 4, I'm going to show you why 2 + 2 is 4, and I will welcome all your questions. I wouldn't say, don't you dare ask me any questions about why 2 + 2 is 4. I'm going to say, oh, you want to know why 2 + 2 is 4? Sit down, I'll explain it to you. But the fact that the ideologies, and Christianity is actually still the same to all intents and purposes.
Sure.
They don't want you to question the ideology. They will tell you, oh, don't ask those kind of questions. You know, you need to, the Holy Spirit needs to land on you before you can understand these things. These are just all the nonsensical responses you get when you ask pertinent questions, and they want to kind of just fob you off. So I don't blame these people for wanting to be very, very careful and saying something in public and doing the exact opposite in private. I'm actually glad that they're doing that, because we have a friend, and I don't know if you know this, Mubarak Bala.
Yes.
Oh, so you know
he's missing, right?
He's missing. He's been missing now for, I don't know what, 8 months now.
Right.
You know, so, and this is what actively goes on in Nigeria. In the north, it's a completely different kettle of fish. In the south, nobody really cares that much if you're asking questions about Christianity, if you're writing stuff. People don't lose their mind if you write stuff about Jesus. Right. They're not going to try and chop off your head if you write stuff. If you write a cartoon about Jesus, and that's even in Nigeria. But you do that about Muhammad. Oh yeah, I mean, there'll be hell to pay. You know.
Christians, we have started off talking about colonialism and religion and whatnot. Now, there's similarities with, of course, what happened over here in terms of enslavement on the colonies, and of course on the continent in terms of religion, right?
Yes.
So I remember there was this high-ranking, I think he was either from Benin Republic, or he was from Benin City, Nigeria. Right?
Okay.
It was like Benin, right? But he was a traditionalist priest, and he came to the Caribbean. He went to, I think it's Trinidad, and because in Trinidad and Caribbean, there's still people that practice traditional systems. Yoruba, Ifa,
yes, I know. Yeah.
So the guy went basically to meet them, and reconnect. I think he was doing an interview one time, and they asked him like, how is he viewed by the majority Christian people where he's from? And he said, it's strange because a lot of the people that come to the priests are people who go to church, right? These people come like nighttime and whatnot, and they come to the traditionalists to ask questions, get their reading, do
course.
whatever. They still come. But
Yeah.
he said we stopped doing that because he said you can't disrespect what we do. You have to pick one. You can't just disrespect me in the day and then come at night where under the guise of night. He says pastors, like these reverends or whatever you see, these reverends you see, they come to him because he's a very high-ranking person. So they come to him.
Of course.
But he has told them, but as of late, he has stopped.
That happens a lot in Africa as well.
I don't want these people to come to me anymore. Don't come. You understand? You are disrespectful because you want to preach that we are demons and we are this and we are that, but then you still come back to ask questions to me.
From my point of view, there's a very good reason for that. Ultimately, human beings are always searching for answers. And we were indoctrinated with the idea that Christianity provides all the answers, but it doesn't actually do so.
Sure.
And so the people that know that Christianity is not giving them all the answers that they want will always go somewhere else to look for more answers. So they're kind of hedging their bets, if you like. This Jesus thing, well, it's not exactly working, but you know what? Let me go and see that Babalawo over there. And this is essentially what happens, and you cannot blame them for doing this. And especially when their religion has told them you can't patronize these traditional healers or whatever. They're evil, they're bad. The Bible says horrible things about them. So they keep it on the down low. And this is one of the sad things that's actually happened to us. And going back to what we were talking about before, how Christianity, in order to spread Christianity amongst us, they had to demonize all our own indigenous beliefs, but we haven't actually let go of it completely.
Sure.
We never have.
When they came over here, I mean to cut you, when it came over here, initially, well, I would say Protestant Christians, which is the English, they did not, they wouldn't preach Christianity to the slaves. They wouldn't. It was forbidden.
Bear me one moment, please. What's that?
Go ahead.
Huh? Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just talking to my friend.
No, that's fine. That's fine, man.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
So it was forbidden, right? Because one of the things that they said was a Christian can't be a slave because they consider themselves Christian. The Catholics had no such issues.
Yes.
Whether you were enslaved or not, you were going to be a Christian. You're going to be a slave.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But the Protestants said a Christian can't be a slave. Right? That's the Church of England, Anglican.
Yeah.
However, what ended up happening was that they started saying, you know what? The Moravians and the Methodists came and said, look, we're not trying to make Christians slaves. We want to make slaves Christians.
Right? Yeah.
So Christianity comes over here and you start seeing a slow trickle of enslaved people being converted
into Christianity. Right? Yes.
In a small, it's a slow trickle. But what ends up happening is that these people have not forgotten their ways.
No, of course not.
Right? They have not forgotten their ways. So a lot of these Baptist churches or whatever you see over here, and you see how these people act in the church and all of this, because these are predominantly black congregations, are actually how what ended up happening was that the enslaved people would carry their own traditions into the Baptist church. How they sang,
of course. Well, you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it. You can see it.
So after a while, they just said, you know what, we can't stop these people from doing that. Just let them come, make sure they pay tithe, and that's it.
Yeah, just let them do it however they want to do it.
However they want to do it, just as long as they say Jesus.
I mean, you can imagine my absolute shock when I found out that the Christian saints in Cuba were all the names of Yoruba deities.
Yeah.
I was like, huh? And I'm thinking, so how come thunder hasn't come down and struck them?
1 second. If I have the book, I'll show it to you. 1 second.
Okay.
Go ahead. I thought I had it. It's a book from a it's a book about a Cuban runaway called Esteban Montero.
Oh, is he not the one that led an uprising or something? Did he?
No, he just escaped.
No. Okay.
He escaped, but a guy chronicled his life.
Okay, interesting.
So he speaks about how in Cuba, how they would have to hide what they were doing. Oh, Tavian, look who's here.
It's the vegetarian crocodile.
Hey, happy birthday, brother.
Yes, happy birthday, bro. How's it going?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I was enjoying the topic though. Don't stop.
Okay.
Continue, please.
Okay.
So I'm listening.
So he gave an example of how they had to hide their traditional worship, right? So this happened across the Caribbean with Obiad, because he had Obiad. They had to hide like they were worshiping using the Bible and all that. But what they were really doing was doing their own tradition. So what he said was that they used to have these houses that they were going to. And when the Spanish guards would walk around and try and inspect them and say, well, what you doing in there? He said, oh, we're worshiping Santa or whatever, Maria this and the Catholic saint this. But he says, really, it was Ogun. Really, it was whatever.
Yeah.
So you would have to hide it.
Yes.
And these people wouldn't care what you're doing as long as they saw a cross and the Bible. They don't care.
I mean, it's what
really doing.
It's one of the reasons why you have things like candomblé, which I think is from Brazil. And I was shocked that they were talking about Yoruba gods. They spoke Yoruba, and I was like, wow, this is Yoruba. This is my language. These people are speaking now in Brazil. I was blown away. And then when my Cuban friend was telling me about the Christian saints, and he was saying Shango and Ogun, and my mouth was on the floor. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you sure? He went, yeah. And when you do realize these are the gods from my people in Nigeria. So you people have essentially married the indigenous beliefs of the Africans that came to Cuba, who are Yoruba, and you married it with Christianity. But that's not actually surprising at all, because if you understand Christianity, as I'm sure you do, they had to borrow from Judaism, and even Judaism borrowed from other religions. So it's an ongoing process, which proves conclusively that it's all man-made. We now know that the ancient Israelites actually initially were worshiping the Canaanite god El, which is why you have Israel, Gabriel, Michael. It's El, the Canaanite god. Yahweh came later on.
Yes.
So everybody does it. Yes. There's nothing unique about what we were doing. The people that sold us Christianity, Islam, they all borrowed from each other. Where I come from, Innocent will know this, we have a terminology called 419, which basically means it's a scam. Everybody was 419 everybody since forever. Right. And the irony is the people who fell prey to the 419 the most are the people that seeded humanity. And for me, oh man, I don't even know where to begin or where to stop, man. Innocent knows what I'm going.
Let me bring it Innocent. Mr. Magaji, we've had a conversation before, but not on this topic here. I want you to introduce yourself, and I want you to tell me what was your experience, because you live in France now. You're a Hausa man. Are you from, would you say northern Nigeria? Is it northern Nigeria or is it middle belt?
Not central.
North central. So you would have been exposed more to the Islamic side of things, no?
Yes.
Right. So give me your experience when you lived in Nigeria, in terms of your religious experience and what broke you out of that.
Well, I don't want to digress too far from what you have been saying before.
Yes.
And it was the experience in north central Nigeria was a very peculiar one because, okay, let me add this. Let me ask this question to the audience and to you that is listening right now, because I want us to address this so that why is it that almost all Black people, because you were saying something interesting before I joined this meeting about how the slave incorporate African spirituality. In fact, the way they are practicing Christianity today, the way, sure, they haven't left the African system. They brought the whole mentality into Christianity with it, and all this praying and casting and binding and all this stuff. So why is it that our people seem almost incapable of living without dependency on some kind of extra, external power with it? And to answer your question about my experience in North Central Nigeria, it was a particular one because, this Boko Haram started from the place where I was born in Plateau State, Jos. We started hearing them protesting on the street. They would start praying and they would not leave the road. They would just block the road on Friday, and all the motorists, everybody would have to stop until they were done. That city, I grew up in that city with zero image of Islam. All of a sudden, strange people started coming in from Niger Republic. Now the whole of Jos is taking over. I'm not saying this to incite hate or create another fight, in case if people are listening to us. I'm just trying to give the analysis of my personal observation of what happened. Now they have started claiming this state, and a lot of people have been pushed away out of their land. This is what we are seeing in Africa among Black community. The religion is busy dividing us, pushing us to kill each other. Our people have become more and more extremist. And the people from the Middle East, the Dubai, the Emirates, most of them are progressing right now. You can see they are adopting certain laws. In Israel, for example, in Saudi Arabia, they are trying to, reduce their laws. In Dubai, right recently, they permit couples who are not married to live together. But back home in Nigeria, where we inherited, we try to, I don't know how to call it.
We are more extreme than the people that brought it to us. Yeah.
Exactly. We appropriate this religion even with the language. You hear a Black man telling you that his name is Muhammad and that the only language accepted in heaven is Arabic. You start thinking like, are you really in your right senses? A Black person telling you that the language accepted in heaven is Arabic. So this is a very difficult thing. For me, I organize every day, thinking about all these things, and I'm trying to relate with them, trying to see where they are coming from, why are they thinking this way, what is the problem. But I think we have a lot of work to do, a lot.
Indoctrination,
and I don't think
is a powerful
it will go very soon. No. Yes, it's very powerful. It took more than 1,000 years to find our people in that. But Islam has been in Africa even right before the coming of Christianity. Before it was into colonialism. My people have been interacting with the Arabs already. So they have been trading, and they came in with this jihadist stuff. So it's been there, and it's going to take a very, very... I received a very powerful message today of a guy, an extremist. We schooled together. Guess what he told me? He said, I cannot like or comment on your post for personal reasons, but I just want to let you know that you should continue with what you're writing. That some of us are reading it silently, but we cannot come out publicly. I was shocked because this is a very influential person in the Islamic world.
It happens. Yeah, so, it happens.
Before now, I was very confrontational in my presentation. When I want to present argument against religion and other stuff, I was very confrontational. I would be attacked. Then I discovered that it creates clash, and they weren't getting my message. Okay. Right now, I use subtle sarcasm. Sometimes I use joke to just provoke certain questions in them. You will see that even the believers, Christians or Muslims, they will come out because they will be laughing. Meanwhile, the joke is on them.
Yeah.
Before you notice 1, 2, 3, and then they come back and say, that thing made sense. So I've stopped that confrontational aspect now, become very cunning to them and pushing it to them and just give them like that. Some of them, they know the tricks that I'm playing. They will just laugh. They say, you like this, you don't want to stay in one place. But that's just it from my experience. So yes, please, I would like you to address, I don't know, any of you could address why is it that our people cannot independently live without religion, always seeking for some kind of power?
I don't know what Greg's take on this is, but my opinion is that our economic situation plays a massive role in why we still hold on to God. If you live in a country where the government is not really, I mean, let's face it, Nigeria is a mess. Okay, when you go to countries where things are working, people tend not to be that religious. We've seen this all over the world. All right, there are some small exceptions, but generally speaking, the more what's the word I'm looking for? The more you live in a society where the government are doing the things that governments generally do, your livelihood is pretty much secure. You're not living on the breadline. You don't need to pray for roads. You don't need to pray for electricity. You don't need to pray for good health care. It's all there. It's provided. There's a very good reason why most European countries are virtually atheistic, if you like. America is an exception in the first world.
Yes.
Those ones, their own wahala is different. But but generally speaking, I think in Africa especially, the problem is the state of our countries. And the thing people don't even know, some people don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And when you're helpless, I tell you what made me really understand this. I remember years ago, I was misdiagnosed with bone marrow cancer. And I remember thinking, when they told me, oh, we think you might have myelofibrosis. And I was like, what's that when it's at home? And she was like, oh, it's cancer of the bone marrow. And I took it in and I said, okay, so what happens now? What do I have to do? And the doctor said, well, we're going to do more tests, blah, 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 blah. And I remember leaving the place and I'm thinking, okay, I understand a little bit about cancer. I'm not an oncologist, but in fact, disease is my thing. And I said, this is why religion is so appealing. That feeling of helplessness is terrifying to us. That something is going on that I cannot do anything about. However, if I am to believe that there is a divine sky genie up in the sky who I can speak to, even if he doesn't necessarily do anything, it will give me temporary relief. Daddy, I need your help. They've just told me I've got cancer. Can you help? And psychologically, I get it. I honestly, I get it. I get why people don't want to let go of it, especially when they live in a place where things are hard. I really, really get it, because I think it's a cocoon of comfort.
I think it's a broad question, because being from over here and my history is a bit different. So
different, yes.
Black people and religion, the reason why they can't live, African people, as far as I've read, as far as I've been taught or whatever, their style of spiritual systems were not these. There's no system of proselytization in any African system. There's no proselytization. Like you don't see.
That's correct. Yeah.
You don't see no Igbo man up and down saying, "Look, you are either gonna follow Amadioha or you're gonna go to hell."
Yeah.
It's a very sort of personal thing for them. You know what I'm saying? They might have their own little shrines. They might have their own little whatever community where they go, but you've never heard of any war, that was caused by Africans on behalf of any traditional spirit. You don't hear of that.
That's true.
Those things come with Islam. Those things come with Christianity, because those things are part of a political apparatus.
Yeah.
Missionaries came to Africa as part of colonists. The missionary was the religious and somewhat political arm.
Yes, absolutely.
That's who they were. They came for that. So African people saw these people come. They come, they had their churches, whatever. It didn't bother them. Like in Benin, they built this big Catholic church across from the Python temple in Benin. right? So I asked a good friend of mine, Gerard, who's watching right now,
Okay.
and he says, yeah, these people still have, mind you, they met the Python temple there.
Yeah.
They met it there.
Mm-hmm.
They built their Catholic church across the street, and they still have a problem with the Python temple.
Of course.
Nobody killed them, nobody whatever. So African people, I think for a long time have had their traditions. It didn't prevent them from achieving great civilization. They had their own laws. They had, functioning societies before.
Yes, absolutely.
Functioning societies. You heard even, I forgot the professor's name. He said the final breaking of Sangye, which was the last evolution of the last great West African empire, which was
the Sangye Empire,
right, Mali before it, and Ghana before it,
and Ghana before that,
right. So all these people were not Muslim in Sangye. A lot of these people were traditionalists.
So you're talking about you're talking about the rulers like Sonny Ali and Askia the Great. And,
Okay. So these people were either nominally Muslim, but in Sangye the ruling elite was essentially Muslim. But they built on traditions of traditional African systems, and all that, even spiritual belief. And these people, the writer said, after Sangye fell, lawlessness broke free over there.
Okay.
So what it shows is that when African people follow their own traditions, it wasn't an issue for them. They had
of course,
own laws, functioning societies, functioning economies, functioning all of that. The issue comes when these foreign religions come in and tell you, look, Jesus is going to solve all your problems. Okay? Jesus will do everything for you. I've never heard anybody say, look, I'm going to come and go to this shrine, I'm going to kill a goat, and when I kill this goat, Shango is going to fix all my problems for me.
It's not the way it works. Yeah, it wasn't the way it works.
It doesn't work like that. So this over-reliance on as you said, the sky genie, this is really a Christian and Islamic thing. This is not... African people have no concept of, let me kill this goat, or let me sacrifice this cow or whatever, and sit down and hope. I see people, as you said, blocking streets and praying in the streets. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is alien, as far as I understand, to African spiritual belief.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point.
This is alien,
I agree with you totally.
And more importantly, when you read African ethics, it would actually make you weep, because you will suddenly see the humanism that's the core of African beliefs. I remember a saying, which I'll never forget, in my language, which is essentially Iwarere la shoenyo, which means your good character is like the clothes you wear. And this is a common theme all throughout different beliefs all over Africa, where your behavior is of utmost importance. Not actually the gods you worship, but your behavior. Now, which religion brought us the idea of it's the belief that matters, and not your behavior? I read, I'm going to send it to you, Greg, because I think you'll find it fascinating. It was compiled by Stanford University, and it's about different beliefs, the Yoruba, the Akan in Ghana, in South Africa, and it tells you how humanism was actually at the good of the whole, as opposed to the good of the individual, was at the very essence of African beliefs. Yes, they had their gods, but it was just almost peripheral, if you like.
Yeah, that wasn't as you said, that didn't come first. It was who you were as a person. Right?
Yes.
That didn't come first, right?
Yes.
So you have these people, these men of God now, robbing people and all of that. But he's a man of God, so it's okay. You have these imams inciting people to violence, but he's a strong Muslim, so he's gonna go to wherever Muslims go. Is it heaven still? What is that?
The saddest thing is that, I mean, my old mentor, he's dead now, was Jewish, but he was a geneticist. And he always used to wind me up by saying, your people swallowed our myths, hook, line, and sinker, and then they ate the boat for dessert.
Oh.
And he used to wear this t-shirt when he knows I'm coming around saying we are all African, because he's worked with the data, and he always used to say to me, how is it that your people are so resistant to the idea that we are not only an evolved species, but that Homo sapiens came out of Africa? You people should find this empowering. You should be enthused by this, because it actually says you are not the people that were demonized and besmirched and told you were nothing. You are actually it, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
this
sir.
should be something that we should carry with pride. But
Yes,
who
sir.
are the most vocal Christians and Muslims? Ada, you've seen it. You've seen it on your wall. You know, it's remarkable. And the thing is, when you post the evidence that says no, we're not related to two Hebrews who allegedly spoke to a talking snake in a magic garden. Actually, Africans seeded the planet. Every human being on Earth can trace their genetic lineage back to Africa. For me, that's more powerful, more profound, more powerful than anything. And for me, that alone should make us stand up and say, okay, you know what? This is a starting point for us to begin to think of ourselves differently. But it's not happening.
Let me ask a question though. A lot of what we understand and whatnot, well, over here, in terms of religion, comes out of the school system. And it's strange because school should be divorced from church, right? Unless you go to a church school, right? However, schools over here, primary schools over here, the government schools, basically came out of churches. They evolved out of that.
Okay.
So basically you go to church, you go to school, you say your prayers, you say whatever. So you always learn about Jesus. What is it that African people, because here in St. Kitts we have medical schools, and there's a lot of West Africans that come in for school, a lot of them, especially Nigerians, a lot, right? And I get into conversations with some of them, and I ask them, how come like so much of you study like medicine? How come you don't study history? You don't study nothing else, right? What is it about history that's not appealing to African people? They don't study, well, let me not say they, but you don't see a large number of African archaeologists,
I want to answer that.
Things like that. You really don't see that, so they could take that home, because you need that back in the continent to teach a younger generation. I want to hear
answer that
from both of you. Go ahead.
My take is this: one, if you study that, you won't get a job. And this is not in all of Africa. I have to say there are archaeologists in Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa. But once you start moving into our neck of the woods, you will be hard pressed. Is it not a fact that we don't even teach African history in schools anymore, Innocent?
Yes.
We don't teach African history in school. It was removed from the curriculum.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. I don't know if this is still true, but this is what I heard. So if you study archaeology, what? They will look at you and say, hey, you want to be digging in the ground. Are you a madman? do you know, go and be digging in the ground. Look, what are you looking for? Is that going to pay your bills? Bro, you won't get a job. Paleontology? Are you kidding?
No.
Are you kidding? It's not gonna hit. Bro, you won't be, if the jobs were there, people will do it. But the government are not encouraging it. The government don't care about it. See, this is how the rot has really set in, to a point that we're not interested. So most parents will tell you, I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to be a doctor. If you say, I want to be a paleo what? What is that? You know, it's not gonna happen. It's not going to happen. Some people will see fossils. They'll be like, why are you studying dead animals? You are studying dead people. Hey, Jesus Christ! Oh, Jesus! Am I lying? Am I lying?
You're absolutely right. That's the culture.
They'll start throwing holy water at you, Greg. You saying you want to be digging up dead people and studying dead people for what? Exactly. So this is why it doesn't happen. It's not encouraged. It's not rewarded. So people don't want to do it because at the end of the day, people want to pay their bills, right?
Right.
Listen, I'm impressed with what I see in places like Kenya. They have a museum of human anthropology. They have fossils of.
So why then all this big noise about returning artifacts back to Nigeria? Where are you going to put them? You don't have people in museums. I mean, I think they should be returned personally, but my thing is, if what you're saying is true, then there are no trained people.
It's not true. It's not true everywhere, I have to say.
In Nigeria, in Nigeria.
Well, in Nigeria, I think it's slowly beginning to change, but it's not changing quickly enough. I don't know. Innocent can correct me because I don't live in Nigeria. I don't know. I have friends who studied archaeology who are doing something else. You know how it is. You might know my friend on Facebook. He studied archaeology. He's not working in archaeology in Nigeria. I'm sure he would love to. But he's not.
There's only one gallery in Nigeria right now. And maybe I don't know whether you know Nike in Lagos.
Okay.
She is one of the biggest art gallery in Africa currently. So, but the problem is this. This is the problem I have with Africans. That center has one of the biggest art collection in Africa, and they are selling their works for more than $2 million US, one single work. But this is what I observed when I went there. When I went to Paris, I visited almost 45 museums. You will see, no matter how tiny the artwork is well placed in the glass with light, presentable in such a way that you feel the reverence. You feel that this work is valued. That's not what I saw in Nigeria. Nike, you can search her work on YouTube. You'll see she has one of the biggest, very dedicated. She has that mindset. She's Afrocentrist. But that mindset of management is not there. These are very precious work that people are coming from different countries, from China, from different parts of the world, to come to Africa to buy some of this work. So it should be presentable in such a way that when people come, they will know that, wow, this is the center. She has all the works, but they are piled on each other like this, piled, and kept carelessly. When I saw it, I felt so bad. David, and if you remember the last time I was talking to you, I told you that I admire you a lot because you are an exceptional person with the kind of knowledge that you have.
Well, thank you. I try.
The most important legacy that you ever leave is transmitting your spirit into another person, another African, another Nigerian, and to see that these things can be able to. I had a lot of dreams before now. I wanted to go into politics, studying geopolitics, to become an ambassador for Nigeria to France. Then things started changing. I became interested in history. Suddenly, my passion for science started. You inspired me, all those things. I started going history, different fields, chemistry, stuff that normally I would not study. And I discovered that these things were important now for us to know.
They are.
Now I discover this thing we addressed the conversation we had a few minutes ago about why Nigerians are coming abroad to study medicine and not their history. You understand this? Someone who hasn't eaten enough, if you're not well fed, if you're not satisfied, you will not be thinking of what to, you won't be thinking of going to space.
Yeah.
So I discovered that the problem has to be addressed from the grassroots.
From the bottom up.
The grassroots. So the people, first of all, need to have enough food in the country to eat. If they are not starving, they can learn to think properly and say, look,
absolutely.
we have to do this. So when I thought about it, I was like, okay, the government cannot go into farming. And the food that we are importing into the country are of bad quality. Most of them are GMO. And when I say GMO, I'm not talking about GMO, because GMOs are There are GMOs that are good, but
Sorry, guys. Can I just cut in quickly? My battery is running low. I'm gonna swap onto my tablet, so I'm gonna log out, and I'm gonna engage the link and come in and use my tablet instead.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Go ahead, my God.
Yeah. So some of the food we're importing are killing the employment in Africa. So we need to, basics. So I've left all my passion and anything that I think of how to make money. Right now, I've been working tirelessly for like 4 months now, developing how to start up an agricultural movement in Africa. So what it means to come to pork farming, goat farming, maize, and different kinds of things, at least to support the system, because a lot of people have to come into the system to be able to participate. We need more farmers that are coming in. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who happens to be a farmer too, but I was telling him something. I said, look, most of us do not understand agriculture. There are 3 phases of agriculture. There's the science of agriculture. Science of agriculture, knowing which seeds to use, when to plant, and all those things. Then there is the commerce of agriculture. So that is finding a market to sell your product. But then again, there is the culture of agriculture. So, but most African farmers are into agriculture just to make money and just to produce the crop and to make money. But they don't know that agriculture could be a luxury.
Sure.
You could farm and tourists could visit your farm to look at the things you're doing. So that farm need to be kept clean, neat. Things need to be done, arranged in a very clean manner. So this is the concept I've been developing. And I say I will replicate it in Africa. Like all this one, this is what I've been working upon. So it's very important that we know that our problem is grassroots and we need to find a solution for that. Yes.
Are you seeing my screen, Magaji?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen. I'm seeing the pyramid. Okay, step actualization.
So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And it starts from the bottom, what you're saying. So the bottom part of the pyramid, which is the base that you must come. So you have to complete each one, as a human being to get to your pinnacle. And as you said, you can't progress upwards into all until you have food, enough water, warmth, and rest. Yes. So you're saying that these people have not passed the basic needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs then?
No.
To progress into these other things?
No, we're still battling. We're still there. We're still stuck. And that is the problem. Our people cannot think beyond that. I posted a challenge recently on my Facebook. And I even made a video about it and I posted it on Hollywood. I say I hate it that Black creators, content creators, Black filmmakers, directors are unable, they lack the imagination to produce science fiction. Because when you're into film industry, you understand what I'm trying to say. There are 3 aspects of film, the art of filmmaking, that's what I call them. First, historical perspective. So you're narrating history in a glorified manner. Oh wow, he's back.
Go ahead, Magaji. Sorry.
Yeah. So because the people are not, the basics things are not there. The people are unable to think higher for themselves. They cannot be able to. A child who is not well fed cannot start thinking of how he will go to the space, but they are thinking of how they will go to heaven, because heaven will of course take away their sorrows and all this.
But you realize what you've just said is essentially what slave masters, essentially the people who converted the enslaved people over here said, right? So basically it was, look, I told Tavian before, the Methodists and the Moravians came after, and because it was actually forbidden, you couldn't teach even Christianity to slaves at first. The Methodists said, look, Christianity will make them better slaves. So what do you mean? It will make them better slaves. Later on in the discussion, I will pull up documents and show you what they said with their own words, that teaching them would make them better slaves. So essentially, the teaching was, slaves, be obedient to your master, work hard, right? Don't worry about all this bad treatment you're getting right now. I'm beating you, I'm raping you, all of this.
Better in heaven.
When you die, when you die,
the biggest 419.
great is your reward up there, right? And our people have imbibed this till now in the Caribbean, that just keep working hard. All this earthly thing means nothing. Don't worry about all that. When you die and go to heaven, that's the real treasure up there. The problem is the people who taught us this don't concern themselves with that. They don't care. You understand? So when our people imbibe such things, one example, there was he was a Taino, either a king or he was just a warrior, but whatever he was called Hatue. And this was before the period of Africans coming over here enslaved in any numbers. This was the 16th century, very early, 1520 something. And they finally caught him, and they're going to burn him at the stake.
Oh, I remember this story. It's horrendous. Oh my God. Yeah, go on.
Hatue said, well, the priest, of course, was like, you have any last words? You want to convert before, we burn you? So Hatue says, this is at the stake. If I convert, am I going to go to heaven? He says, yes. He says, well, in heaven, he says, in heaven, are Spanish people in heaven? The priest says, well, yes, the good ones. He said, well, light the fire because the bad ones and the good ones are the same. I don't want to go to your heaven.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember. There's a.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Go on.
No, it's just, the difference of thought. This man was like, you could keep your heaven. Because in heaven, the bad Spanish and the good Spanish are up there, all of you are the same.
I don't want to be there. Yeah.
I don't want to be there. It's cool. Light the fire.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's the oh gosh. It's the biggest con going, especially when you read how Christianity was spread both in the New World and in Africa. See, in Africa, we easily forgot what things were really like. We get the kind of, the nicely tidied up version. Yeah, they came along and said, oh, this is a lovely religion. Just accept it and everything will be wonderful. Well, that's actually not the reality. When you read what the Spanish did in Peru, in Mexico, in the Caribbean, in Haiti, it's just absolutely dreadful. And people used to make the argument that it's not the religion, it's just people. But that's the thing about reading the Bible in its entirety. It's a horrendous book. Ado knows I have absolutely no respect for it, none whatsoever. I have more respect for a Spider-Man comic. honestly.
Let me ask y'all a question, because the last conversation I had, and I think Ado will tell. Well, he came in with a pointer saying these people kept arguing with him, but some people messaged him privately. Remember, I told you, Tavian, that these people messaged me privately and asked me for books, right?
Yes, you told me.
The last conversation I had on Twitter was a brother who is from northern Nigeria. And the conversation was essentially that Islam in Nigeria still treats people like how the Arabs treated the black people when they first came. The black people ended up transmitting that violence onto their own people. He said, I don't believe you. I said, let me give you an example. Ibn Battuta. I don't know if you ever heard of Ibn Battuta.
Yeah, I have.
Ibn Battuta was a Moroccan traveler.
A traveler, writer, yes.
Right. So in this last part of his journey, he went sub-Saharan Africa. He came across the Sahara, and he went into well, first he went east, he went back home, then he went into Mali. In Mali, he finds that, well, let me share my screen. I wanna show you what he said, because it's from this book, right? Ibn Battuta in Black Africa. Right, this is just a part of whatever. But so let me share my screen first. I'm going to show you exactly what he says, because I don't want to misquote anything. I'll make sure I don't misquote anything. So, one second. We're in Mali, and I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen now. Tell me if you see my PowerPoint. You see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
So he says in Mali, he calls it a good quality. He says, another of their good qualities is their concern for the learning of the sublime Quran by heart. They make fetters for their children when they appear on their path to be falling short in their learning of it by heart. And they are not taken off till they do learn it by heart.
It still happens now.
He says he went to visit the Qadi on Sunday, and his children were tied up. I said unto him, why do you not release them? He said, I shall not do so until they learn the Quran by heart. This is another one down here where he saw a young man dressed in very nice clothes, but his feet were in a heavy chain. And he asked, what has the youth done? Has he killed someone? The youth laughs, and he was told that he has been chained, that he will learn the Quran by heart. You understand? So I shared it with the brother, and I said, you've seen reports recently in northern Nigeria, in other countries,
yes,
of Islamic schools
doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing.
Yeah.
No,
I saw it.
A century.
I saw it.
This travel was in 13 something, whenever. We're talking about 700
years later. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I know. It's devastating, isn't it?
Explain to me, why is it that African people do these things on behalf of a religion that is not their own?
Because they've been indoctrinated to believe that this is what they need to do to get into the Playboy mansion in the sky. Right?
Yep.
I want to go to this celestial theme park where I'm going to drink milk and honey forever, and this is what I have to do. You know, they actually think this is a virtue.
Can you see my screen? Can you see the comment on the screen?
Yeah, I was born in London, but it's so strange to me that my older family still send money to Nigeria when they have problems. This money is sent to kill cows. Okay, to kill cows to do what? To eat?
No, for sacrifice.
Oh, well, that's gonna work.
So he's saying he's a Christian. But he's saying remember we said earlier that his family, that people still, when they
they still do that.
They still do it.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And that's a Nigerian in London.
Greg.
Yes, sir.
I'm planning to set up a center in Nigeria eventually with pythons.
Pythons.
Good luck.
Yes.
Good luck.
I spoke with your friend, and he told me that people who breed snakes, I've forgotten the word he used. Something logy, I've forgotten the word he used. Apology or something like that, I've forgotten.
Herpetology.
Exactly. I think that's
herpetologist. Yes.
Yes, I think that's the word.
Yeah.
So because that would terrify a lot of Christians. The moment they hear that, look, this guy doesn't fear snakes.
Yeah, but come on, they're afraid of snakes. They're afraid of black cats. They're afraid of the Muslims don't like black dogs. They don't even like dogs. Pigs are no good. I'm sorry. I'm just glad that I junked religion when I did, because oftentimes I sit back and I think it's almost like a form of insanity that we celebrate.
Sorry, go ahead. My bad. Sorry.
No, go on.
No, I want to ask a question of both of you. Has there been any positive results from having Christianity and Islam from maybe, from your experiences in Africa, in your country in Africa, has there been any positive results?
Well,
Islam,
I mean, see, this is always a difficult one for me to answer in the sense that I always think nothing good can come from a system where somebody else comes along and essentially reduces you to a tenant in your own country. Some people would argue that obviously modern medicine and education, but then what kind of education exactly are we talking about? If you know what I mean. I'm glad that I had a Western education. I have to be honest about that. I'm glad that I understand how viruses work. I'm glad that I understand how bacteria, that I know what these things are. But if it's the price that I have to pay for surrendering my identity and heritage, which I think is actually more important and more fundamental to who I am and who we all are, I would have gladly said no. So I don't know. It's a question that to be honest with you, I always struggle to answer for the simple reason that there are some things that came with colonialism that I like, and some of them I've just mentioned, like the education and so on. But no, I don't know. I would have to say, if I'm pushed, I would have to say no, because the damage that has come along with it is much worse and will take much longer to fix.
The question,
it's not even
the question was very precise. It wasn't broad. So he wants to know if there is any good that Christianity, not colonialism. Colonialism came with different.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Yes, I kind of.
Yeah, and for Christianity, to answer your question, you need to look at it in two aspects. So there are two ways to answer this kind of question. So there is a collective aspect, and then there is an individual aspect to answering your question. Collectively, Christianity has done greater damage to the African society. Like, there's nothing good about it. Collectively, if you look at it, so 100% bad for Africa.
Wow.
But on individual level, there are individuals who will tell you that, look, I lost a child, and this is what consoled me,
Yes.
And a nursing mother lost her child to accident, but because of the hope of some kind of life, she was able to regain her strength to start up her life. Or somebody who is suicidal, or somebody who happened. I know of an individual who was a drug addict, but he was chronic drug addict. He was unable. If he doesn't take all those hard substance, he will be shivering. His hand will be shaking like this. But someone spoke to him about Jesus. He accepted Jesus. All of a sudden, he got some strength to resist the drugs. He became a preacher. That person got his life back. He went back to school, went back to the university, and went on to start up a great career. So individually, there are certain personal aspects that people say that, look, I got hope, I got strength to do this. But on a collective level, there's nothing to write about that.
Wow.
It's a huge damage to our society.
What about, you said Christian, what about Islam?
Both Islam and Christianity, they work that way to some people. Islam is less in certain aspects. For example, that they don't ask you to give money. They don't ask you to pay tithe, for example, in Islam. There's something they call it zakat. So it's arm giving. You give it to poor people. You give them. So, but that I cannot collectively. I don't think both religions are not good for Africa.
Wow.
Because we have lost our identity, like Tavian said, we have lost our identity to a foreign. We appropriated the myth, and we see a black man telling you that, look, Arabic is the language in heaven. That is like an Arabic man will be looking at you like, really, So
what I don't seem to understand is why we cannot even just take a step back and realize that we have two opposing sides of the same coin telling us different things. So Muslims are saying Arabic is the language spoken in heaven. So clearly Christians are not going to go to this heaven.
Right.
So where the hell are they going to end up? And where the hell are the people that are in India or the Australian Aborigines who never even had the chance to speak Arabic? I mean, all the claims are so idiotic. I just don't even understand why people can't even just take a step back and say, this is nonsense. This is complete and utter nonsense. Why would the creator of the cosmos insist that a language that is how old is Arabic anyway? How old is it?
Not very old. be honest.
He ain't as old as Coptic.
No.
Or the Sumerian language, for example, or some of the languages that we've spoken in Africa for God knows how long.
Right.
You know, so and God is sitting there saying, no, you must not speak those languages. You must only speak this language. It's silly, and people should be able to step back and say, why would God even be bothered about a language that you speak when, according to the Christians, it was God that confused human beings to speak all the different languages in the first place?
Right.
Like, what the hell?
Right. Over here, I would say, again, I like this discussion because it's two brothers that from the continent now live elsewhere, and you have me who come from an experience of enslaved people. Christianity for us has been extremely traumatic because how it was used in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. There's a book that I finished up that I had to use because I was doing a presentation. This book, Christian Slavery in the Protestant World, right? Okay. It's by Catherine Gerbner in the Protestant Atlantic.
Wow, I've never seen that.
Right? It's a very good book, mm-hmm. right? It's not very long at all, not very big. But it essentially talks about Protestant, which is the Anglican, over here in this part of the world, Christians own plantations, right? Christian pastors.
Sorry, I just got a dash to the loo.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. So over here, pastors owned plantations. They managed slave plantations. They were involved in the sugar trading. It was just a part of life. Let me mute Tavian's mic till he comes back. So, yeah. Hold on. Somebody asked a question here. Do you think believers of some religions mesh the religious practices with cultural practices, even blurring the lines even more? Magaji, anything on that?
Yes, I don't know how to answer that, but I think it's a very fantastic question. It's something that we need to study, to look into, because I saw an American preacher, an African American. That was a video I saw like 3 days ago. He said, if you're going to pray in America, you have to pray the African way. That prayer in America is so romantic. Oh, my Father God in heaven, we thank you for this. No, this is an African American. Mm-hmm. In US, he said that you have to pray the African way. What is the African way? He said the African way of prayer is energetic. You call all the fire, you call all the thunder, and you call all you summon the spirit world. And we saw it recently with Trump's spiritual advisor. What is her name?
Paula White.
Yes.
Paula White.
Yeah, Paula she White, was calling angels from Africa. It was a learned behavior.
Angels, but I must say it's common now.
Tavian, this was the question from the chat room. I don't know if you can see it. It was asked, do you think believers of some religions mesh the religious practices with cultural practices?
Well,
even
of course.
blurring the lines more.
Yeah, of course. Well, we've already discussed this. This happened when I was in Nigeria. We went to a particular church called the Celestial Church of Christ, and some of their practices, you have to bring eggs, and they bless the eggs, and they bring palm fronds and candles and all sorts of weird stuff, man. And then even the behavior in church, none of that jumping around and saying the Holy Spirit landed on you and you're behaving like a demented epileptic. None of that is in the Bible, is it? You don't see Catholics going like this all over the place, do you? Jumping around and all. It doesn't. Okay, the Bible talks about speaking in tongue, but we've Africanized it, walking around barefoot. Okay, maybe there are instances in the Bible where people were having no shoes. I don't know. I don't remember any. But the stuff that we were saying about the Yoruba gods as saints in Cuba, Candomblé in Brazil. There's a few others that I can't remember off the top of my head. So
there's
clearly, there's loads. There are many examples of people taking the religion that they were converted to by their colonial oppressors and basically marrying it with their indigenous beliefs. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
And the question is, if this blend of cultural and Christianity blurs even the light,
even more,
is that the question? Is that the final line of the question, Greg?
And does it blur it even further? Yes. Well, it does. I believe it does. I think some of the things.
In what ways?
What did you say? In what ways?
Yes.
Well, this is what I mean. When I'm talking about the Celestial Church of Christ, some of the things that we were doing in church had nothing to do with anything I've ever read in any Christian scripture. What the hell are you doing with eggs and drinking? We used to drink perfume, bruv. They used to make us buy this cologne called Miss Paris perfume. It's not cologne, Miss Paris, and they would bless it. They would pour it in the water. We would drink the water. In some cases, you would sip on this perfume. They would, in the church, they would spray it around, and as soon as it touches some people, this is how I got my white gown, my squared gown, because I realized that when they sprinkle it at some people, they start hopping around, and I thought, oh, is that how it works? So I started to copy them, you know? Yeah, but that's not in any Bible, bro. So people essentially make it up as they go along as well. So they not only blur cultural practices, they also make stuff up as they go along.
Tavian, you would like to speak about this. There was a research you shared with me that they found fossils, was it of cannabis in a temple in Israel or somewhere?
No, not fossils. They found the residue of cannabis in some of the temples in Judea, in Israel.
So do you think those?
Of course, bro. Come on. Listen, and Greg probably knows this. It is not new that humans were taking hallucinogenics as part of their religious rituals. This is very, very old. Why do we think Christianity is any different? Come on. What do you think possessed someone to write about a talking snake and a talking donkey? And have you read Revelations? Revelations reads like somebody on a serious acid trip, bro.
But then in saying that, sorry to cut you off, right?
Go on. No, it's fine.
It's not new at all.
Yes.
You see the whole frankincense and myrrh. These are things that you like, the incense that you like to put you in a certain mood. Those things come out of Ethiopia, right? Is it myrrh, frankincense? One of those things come out of Ethiopia.
Yes.
Right? I think over in Western Africa, they eat a certain kind of nut or whatever, and it gives them this trip. I don't know which cut. Okay. I don't know which people it is. In South America, they have these these frogs.
What's it? Huasca, isn't it?
Right,
yeah.
All these things. That's not new.
No, it's not.
All of a sudden, these people want to act like they're better than somebody else. You're not better than somebody else.
They have to sell that narrative.
Saying?
They have to sell that narrative. I'm not. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish.
No, I was just going to say, to put it mildly, I'm not surprised that residue of marijuana was found in some Jewish temples in antiquity, and I'm pretty certain that it goes even further back than that. It's much older than that. I wouldn't even be surprised if the ancient Egyptians also used hallucinogenics in their religious rituals, because they were certainly open-minded about a lot of things, man.
Sure.
So no, I'm not surprised at all.
In terms of the question of blurring cultural lines, Janelle is actually from my country, and she should very well understand how syncretism works, where you couldn't get the Africanness out of these Africans. You couldn't get it out of them. You just had to deal with it. So these people came and they were like, look, we can't have our own temples. We can't have nothing. But we have to go to this church. Okay? But we like to do it a certain way. As you said, I might bring my egg to be blessed by whatever. After a while, it starts becoming blood. because obviously they couldn't bring their religious leaders over, but they brought their culture. You can't get the culture out of the person, so the culture ends up going into the religion and it ends up mixing. So you have things like in the Caribbean, you have people who you call spiritual Baptists. If you Google these people, they're mostly found in the Southern Caribbean. The Southern Caribbean has held on a lot more to Africanism stuff. Martinique,
oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Martinique, Guadeloupe, or whatever. However, they will still tell you, oh, that's Obia and that's wicked. Obia is the blanket term that they gave in the English-speaking Caribbean that they gave to any form of African tradition. Obia, right? And
yeah, I've heard that word.
They will still do it. So you have spiritual Baptist, which is it's a Christian church, but if you look at it, you will realize it's a mix of, you know, African systems and whatever. How they celebrate, how they worship, and all of that, right? So of course, the problem comes where now, if I grew up in that household and I said, look, I want to then go back to the more streamlined approach to this because I know where it comes from, you will now start looking at me strange. Because, oh no, what's that? What's this African thing you speak of? So, but you do realize that what you're doing is African worship. But they're not going to recognize it because the lines have been so blurred that they don't recognize anymore what they're doing. And this is a problem.
Can I direct this question to both of you, Greg and Tavian? I want us to understand what that word blur means. How can we apply that? What does that even really mean? Does it mean that it stopped the people from reasoning properly? Or do you prefer that they practice pure Christianity? What does that mean? In what aspect? Let me rephrase the question. Let me rephrase the question that I want to get the right answer. The person said that mixture African Christianity and African spirituality and Christianity blurs word. And in what way? Does it mean that people need to practice pure Christianity or pure African spirituality? What are we looking for? What are we suggesting?
Well, let me just answer the bit that I think I may be able to contribute. There's no such thing as pure Christianity anyway. If you go back far enough, even at the very beginning, there were various schools of thoughts, which is why the Council of Nicaea was such a thing. You know, there were various schools of thought. The Arians thought completely different. The Gnostics thought completely. There were different schools of thought, even in the very, very earliest days of Christianity. But if you say, should they go back to the earliest form of Christianity? Most people don't even know what that is. Should they go back to the earliest form of African spiritualism? Personally, I don't even want any of them. Me, personally. I think we've gone past that. I actually think what we've now discovered with science, for me, is spiritual. Africa seeded the planet. How more spiritual do you need to get? Without us, there would be nothing else. So that for me is powerful enough for us to say we are all human beings. There is no white race. There's no black race. There's one race, the human race, and we are the seed. Huh?
This thing froze up.
Okay, I don't know.
People in the chat, are you hearing Tavian and Ada? What's happening here?
Can you read the comments?
The village people are throwing juju at us, man. You've never heard that expression, Greg. We have this back. Ada understands it. Say, it's the village people who they have started again.
I think the line's blurring. The line is blurring.
So answer my question, please. What is it blurring? Because I think the person who wrote that question is asking the wrong question.
Okay.
The question needs to be rephrased.
I don't think it's a wrong question. I understood the question. Sorry,
I understand the question.
I understood the question. She was essentially saying, when people try to marry Christianity with African spirituality, have they gone so far that the lines are even more blurred than they used to be? So it's just essentially a continuous marriage of these two opposing ideas to a point that where you can't tell which is Christianity and which is African spirituality. And I think I understand the question. When she says blurred, has it mixed so much that we can't even divide them anymore? right?
Yeah.
Is that how you understood it, Greg?
Yeah, in certain areas, like over here, that was done under duress. You had to do that. You had to hide behind the cross, right? To hide what you were doing. Eventually, you kept doing it so much, generation after generation, that now it's become melded, right? So you don't know what's what no more. Like Haitian voodoo is syncretized so much with, it's Christian with voodoo from Benin and these other places, because they had to hide it. They had to hide it, whatever. So the lines became blurred to now in 2020, where now you look at voodoo and it's all these crosses and all this and all this. Somebody might say, well, which is which now?
Yeah.
But
where does Christianity end? And
right, which is it? So hold on. She replied. She said, what I was suggesting was that this blending becomes so normalized that people think they are practicing one thing, Christianity, when in fact they are not.
They are not. Yes.
Greg,
Yes, I get that.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
And that's the truth. That when you look at some of these things, they're not practicing Christianity.
So what are they practicing?
They're practicing some
bro,
synchronized thing.
At the end of the day, I actually don't think it matters, because Christianity was made up. So, and everything else that followed it is also made up. So everyone's practicing what other humans made up.
Sure.
So it really doesn't matter what it is, what you want to call it. We could just call it 419, right? Everybody.
Now you get my question. Tell me, you get my question.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked was, does it even matter? Mixing Africa. Exactly. Does it matter?
A lie is a lie. It doesn't matter which was the first lie or the second lie or the third lie or a marriage of many lies. It's just a big fat lie.
A big fat lie.
I think it matters. I think it matters when people start attacking somebody else.
Yes, I agree.
When you start with me, when you want to start with me, I'm going to tell you what you're practicing is not Christianity. You leave me alone. Okay? It starts mattering then. Okay? If you can mind your business, it doesn't matter. You keep your lie, I'll keep mine. But you mind your business. You don't tell me anything. Because if I'm like I was telling Tavian before he came out, there was this priest who was over here in the Caribbean. He was doing an interview. He came to visit some of the worshippers of Ifa in Trinidad. But he was from either Benin City or Benin Republic. He's a high-ranking priest. So he comes over to visit the people, right? To commune with them and to reconnect continent with diaspora, because there's some differences with how the diaspora does their worship to how the continentals do it. No, right? I was telling Tavian, the guy said, look, some of these people, he was asked, how is he received in his country? Because his country is, I think it was from Nigeria. Because he was from Nigeria. Because his country is, his area is Christian, and he's big on Christianity and all this. And he said, a lot of these Christian people come to me for readings and all these things, but they have to hide it. And he said he stopped doing it because these people have no respect for him and have no respect for traditional systems in the public. He said he stopped. He said he doesn't mind if a Christian comes to him and asks him for advice. He'll give his advice. But what you cannot do is then tomorrow in the daytime go and disrespect me and call me demon and call me devil and call me, because I don't do that to you. Yeah. Right? So that's what I mean. It's like it becomes a problem when you can mind your business and don't disrespect me.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a problem. Okay? Go ahead.
Sorry, go on, Greg. Go on.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, because the thing is, at the end of the day, if these ideologies didn't have influence and real life implications on the society at large, no one would really care if somebody said, I believe in the invisible flying calabash. I wouldn't care.
Right.
I might giggle when you say, well, I had a talking goat told me to eat a banana, and this is why we have a pandemic, I would just laugh at you. I wouldn't really care. But the problem is when they then turn around and say, this is what I believe, and if you don't believe it, there's some celestial, torture chamber waiting for you. I'm sorry, I'm offended. I'm offended when people say that kind of crap to me. Like, you're trying to sell somebody something so stupid, and then you're saying, if you don't believe it, well, my sky genie is going to hurt you. For me, I have a problem. So some words are problematic for me when people say stuff like that. If you say, this is what I believe, but it's what I believe, I don't care whether you believe it or not. It's for me. You're not saying women should not dress a certain way. You're not saying people should not say certain things. You're not saying people should not draw certain things. Just live and let live. There are some religions like that who actually, Jainism, as far as I can tell, doesn't go around telling anybody to do anything. As a matter of fact, they are so non-violent, it's ridiculous.
Right.
They walk around covering their mouth just in case they swallow an insect by accident. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if the Abrahamic religions were like that? I actually don't have a problem with many religions. People are surprised when they hear this. It's the Abrahamic religion that I actually have a problem with. All the others, I'm like, nah, yeah, they're not going around saying believe it. They're not screaming at the top of their lungs at like 5 o'clock in the morning, waking you up, and you don't dare say anything. They're not stopping you in the middle of the road trying to tell you about their Lord Jesus Christ. Imagine if I stopped someone in the middle of the road and said, I want to tell you about Batman.
It's morning devotion, sir.
It's just people don't realize why some of us find it really, really offensive. I'm going to say something. I know I'm digressing a little bit. And more importantly, when they talk about the morality of these ideologies, Greg, it's actually quite scary. This pandemic has shown Christianity, especially, in such a horrendous light. When I've heard Christians say things like, is God showing his power? Is God showing who is boss? I'm like, what? A virus jumped from an animal into humans and your immune system went crazy and loads of people are dying, and this is your God showing off? And they then turn around and say, well, God can do whatever he likes, and you're okay with this?
Sure.
I have
a question. Go ahead. When you're finished, I want you guys to address
No, go ahead with your question, because if I start, I'll just be ranting forever, man.
How successful has Islam and Christianity been in cowing African people, in sort of destroying their self-esteem? I mean, how successful has it been?
Very, very, very successful, bro. I've had instances where, imagine you make an accusation that somebody did something by visiting a traditional healer or something. And you imagine that this visit is evil just by the mere fact that this person went there to do this thing. And then when I said, wait a minute, you have not provided any evidence that what this person went to do at the traditional healers is evil, wicked, cruel, or has had any negative effect. And the person just turned around and said, well, it wasn't of God, it wasn't of Jesus. Yeah, this is a fact. This happened. And I'm like, wait a minute, which God? The God of Moses, the God of Abraham. And I went, so are you telling me that before we ever were introduced to Christianity, everything we did was wicked, evil, demonic? This is what these Abrahamic religions have done to us. People actually believe this crap. If it's not Jesus or Muhammad, it's satanic. Am I lying, Ada? This is what people say.
Yes.
Hey, no, that is not of Jesus. So, hey, Jesus is the king. This is what has happened. Greg, seriously.
Go ahead.
It's not an anecdote. This is what is being said to me. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, so if it's not Jesus, it's bad. Wow. They've really, really, really done a number on us. I've been told that unless I accept Jesus Christ in my life, it's all for nothing. And I'm like, why would God care about my belief if my character is okay? What is so virtuous about believing that a snake spoke to two people in a magic garden anyway? What is so great about believing any of the stories? If you're person, if you've tried throughout your life, none of us can ever be perfect, but let's say you've done the best that you can, or at least you've tried. Because it's not like they're more moral than the rest of us, is it? Really? They're not.
Right.
But they say, if you don't accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, you will burn. No, come on.
I have to go.
I'm sorry.
I have to go, but before I go, I would like you to leave us with a question. Very, very important. I would like to hear what you think about this, because what we have done so far between us, this conversation, is identifying the problem, seeing where the fault is and what the people, where the fault. Obviously, I know that there are people who will stumble upon this video eventually, and they will hear what we are saying. They will know that, yes, this is the problem over the African society, and I'm glad that we could be able to share this. It is important to have a platform to make this conversation public. So my question is, now that we have identified this problem, what are the solutions? What ways? How can we be able, on an individual level, I know we have certain responsibility to do, but how can we do to be able to get our people? What is the solution? What do you think? Because where do we see ourselves from now, 10 years, 30 years, 50 years? Are our people going to grow beyond this? Are they going to eventually, probably when the economy improves, are they going to gradually abandon Christianity? Or what do we need to put more effort with the cultural revolution? For example, with what happened in Europe, there was a time they stood up and said, look, no more miracles, no more prayers. We have to get to work and fix our continent. Is that what is the solution to this dilemma where?
Well, I'll let Greg answer first.
Well, I in terms of the continent, of course, I will leave that to you guys, right? I have my own thoughts on that. But over here in the Caribbean, I would say, because we're in the same issue as you guys, right? So, because religion, Christianity was used as a blunt object to enslave our people over here. So it's firmly angry. When you have a situation like on the island next to me, which is the other half of my country, Nevis, on the tourism website, you have a situation where one of the churches was built by a plantation owner, and he's lauded because, you know, he allowed slaves to worship in the church. On the tourism website, it says he's called John Cottle. And John Cottle, you know, the lenient slave owner, allowed his slaves to worship in the church. When you have things like that and you don't realize that there's no such thing as a lenient slave owner, you understand the situation. It's from the government on down when young people have to read that and they say, oh, he was lenient because he allowed me to go into his church, right? And if he was, you know, if that's the case, that must mean the church, the Christian God, is great because this man was a lenient slave owner. What if the slaves had said, no, I don't want to go to church today? What would have happened, right? What I'm saying is that over here, because we don't have access to any African, really, well, in my country, because that's been wiped out. It's illegal, it's whatever. You cannot practice any form of African spirituality. It's illegal still, right?
Wow.
But we'll get into that on another stream, because this is not going to be the last one. I want to do this again with some other people, right? We have to first off accept that African people are not inherently evil people.
Oh, of course not.
African spiritual systems are not inherently evil.
Of course not.
Our self-esteem must come out, must rise from the captured, enslaved person. Our whole mentality has to change. We have to then start saying, look, if we were not evil, then what were we doing when we were at our greatest extent, our greatest expansion? But there was a time, as a teacher said one time online, he said, African people were on top longer than they've been at the bottom. We were at the top longer than we were at the bottom. So we must understand that there's a longer history of us succeeding than failing. So the solution is to rediscover the things that made us successful. That was not, by the way, that was not number one spirituality. African spirituality was not the number one thing for us. But it also wasn't a deterrent for our industriousness, our education on the continent. It was not an impediment. I find Islam and Christianity to be an impediment to us rediscovering the good things.
Talking about that, have you ever seen a series presented by Henry Louis Gates Jr. Called African Civilizations?
Yes.
No, I haven't yet.
You should watch it. You should watch it. It's actually quite good. It actually tells you a lot about some of the ancient African kingdoms and civilizations that flourished before the arrival of the Europeans. In answer to that particular question, my view is probably to some a bit extreme, in the sense that I actually think the only thing that will get us out of this malaise that we are in is to actually discard superstition altogether and become more realistic and more and have a firmer grasp on reality. I actually think that will empower us much more than anything else.
Sure.
I think the time for listen, if people want to be spiritual, fine. But I actually think with everything that we're now beginning to discover about the natural world and the role of Africa in the history of our species, for me, that is actually spiritual enough in the sense that reality should be our spiritualism. For me, I am moved profoundly when I think about these things. I am moved profoundly when I think that we were downtrodden for so long. We were called less than human for so long. We were demonized for so long. And yet it turns out that the people that demonized us so much have now realized that actually they came from us. I cannot think of anything more profound than that. That is, science is my spirituality now. Because it's actually made me fall in love with the human species on a deeper level, because we are more connected than we are apart. We are more similar than we are different. And so that's, for me, I think as an African man, that's my way forward.
Before you leave, Magaji, I want to share something with you that I spoke about.
I'm going to leave too, actually, because I'm going
to wrap up now, but I want to share something with y'all. Right. Remember I said earlier about how Christianity was used to, help enslave people. I want to share with you what the Moravians said in terms of its role and whatever. I'm going to share with you. This is an actual book, their own history that they wrote themselves. Lest anybody who watches this video thinks I'm lying. The Moravian Church.
Okay.
Right? These people came from Germany, right? So
okay.
Let me see if I can share it now. Lest anybody thinks I'm lying. This is the source.
No.
So
we don't think that.
Here it is. So it's called The History of the Mission in St. Kitts for the past 100 years. So here it is. The number of converts, these are black people, increased by the thousands. And the results of the preaching of the gospel plainly proved. Are you seeing this?
Yeah, I can see this.
That the poor blacks had been capable of understanding the teachings of the Christian religion, so that their hearts and lives had been decidedly influenced thereby, and that the converted Negroes not only entertained no hostile feeling against the whites, but were really better and more faithful slaves than their heathen companions.
Wow. This needs to be made public.
So
how can I have access to that?
No, it's known. You do realize there's a slave Bible. There's a slave master's Bible where they took out all the passages that they thought would inspire the slaves to rebel, and just gave them all the nice ones about, like Greg was saying earlier, slaves obey your master and deal with them as you would deal with Jesus and so on. Trust me, this is well known. This is well known. For me, it's actually nothing new.
So
this was all
what she said basically was that the ones who were not converted, the ones who resisted conversion, these were the ones you had to worry about.
Yeah.
The ones who did conform, you don't have to worry about them. I got them.
Yes. They're fine.
So what are you suggesting by that? What are you suggesting?
What am I suggesting?
Yes, with that, because you just shared it. That is the reason why you shared it.
I shared it because I mentioned earlier that slavery, that Christianity was a tool used to pacify and cow African people.
Yeah.
It's a perfect book when you've beaten up a person militarily, when you've beaten them by violence. If I give you this book, I'm not going to destroy your mind, right?
Yeah.
Because when I give you this and preach to you about be obedient to
Meek
your master,
and gentle.
meek and gentle, right? I can do anything to you, but you will not retaliate because I know what
But
I've
you want
taught.
to be like Jesus.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. I would like to leave here, but there's something
We'll do
that
another
I
one.
noticed.
Yeah,
Yes, there's something that I discovered, that the three of us have different ideologies. Tavian is an atheist, while you, Greg, you happen to be going towards African spirituality. Am I correct?
yeah, somewhat, yeah, sure.
Okay. Why me? I happen to be hanging on in between. I'm somewhat with neutral ideology. So you
Yeah,
not
but that's
find me on
fine.
the extreme. You not find me on the extreme end of any of this ideology. So it's
Right.
very interesting that we are
Yeah, but
discussing
that's
about
fine.
this.
That's fine.
Yes.
There's nothing. Yeah, that's fine.
That's
So
fine.
That's
I want
fine.
us to address this in the future, because I'm curious to know why Greg is particular about African spirituality. You know, this is the reason why I asked you, why did you share this document? Because the people who rejected Christianity were able to resist slavery. You could see that they were rebellious, but those who accepted Christianity. So that was the reason why I asked you, why did you share? Were you trying to point out that that knowledge of self identity helped them to know that, yes.
Well, we're gonna do another show, but I'll close by
Yeah.
saying, I had to shed Christianity completely when I started becoming more conscious about my African self. This is why I did the DNA tests and all of that to see my paternal lineage back to the continent. Luckily, it was not broken by a European. My father's paternal lineage is unbroken back to the continent, so I was able to find out my people, right? Anyway, I had to shed Christianity. I couldn't be a Christian because I understood its role, you know, how its imagery played a role in enslaving African people, where everything is this European man. This, if you go into the Catholic Church here, you see all the white statues beaming down at, like, peering at you. Even though when people here paint a picture of Jesus, they paint it as a white man, right? I had to shed that, because not that I hate white people, but was that if Jesus is white and he's the savior, it must mean then that these people are holier than me. What does that make me? Right? So I share that to say to people that this religion that you embrace so strongly, and I have a lot of Christian friends who are Pan-African with me. I'm not going to fight you necessarily on that. Right? But I had to tell people that I couldn't hold on to this religion because I know the role and the damage that it's done to our people. I had to let it go completely. Okay. Right? But we'll get into that another time, because there's a lady called Taiwo Williams I want to bring on. She's also she's a Yoruba Londoner. She's now moved to Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe here in the Caribbean. She's a African practitioner. And I want to bring her on. So I'm gonna let y'all wrap up. We're gonna close out, right? So let me let Magaji wrap up. Go ahead, sir.
No, I think I'm done. Thank you for the opportunity, and looking forward to speak on the next program, please.
Right, no problem. Tavian.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Same here. Like I said, it's been a wonderful experience. Let's do this again sometime soon. And stay safe.
Peace, brother. Peace.
All right, bro. You take care, man. Bye-bye.
All right. So everybody who joined us, man, I want to thank y'all for listening. If you're going to listen to us on a playback, I appreciate you. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to do a lot more of these, right? My name is Greg. You can find me at S.K.N Blackstar on Facebook.com. You can find me on Twitter. Let me tell you what my Twitter name is. I don't really give it out too much, but it's at Christos, at Crystos, right? So you can find me at any one of those things. Hit me up. I would appreciate anybody who wants to converse with me. With that, peace and power. Y'all have a nice day.